Yes, you are watching The Real Story. I'm Al Terzi.
And I'm Lori Perez.
And, you know, the Hartford Current called her win an August surprise. Did you see the headline? Upsetting frontrunner Chris Donovan in the 5th District congressional race. Elizabeth Esty is a Cheshire attorney and a former state representative.
And now she is Connecticut's Democratic nominee for the U.S. House of Representatives. The race, of course, to fill the seat being vacated by Congressman Chris Murphy as he seeks the Senate role. Elizabeth, thanks for being here and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And let's get right to it. You know, the DCCC is getting involved in this race. They released a video this week calling Andrew Rohrabaugh Tea Party candidate. You know him. I mean, isn't that a bit of a stretch?
Well, I'll tell you, what I'm focused on right now is introducing myself. Well, first, getting the Democratic Party all on the same page. Face it, both Andrew and I have had spirited primaries, and at least my first order of business, I know, is on the Democratic side, making sure that we're moving forward together. So that's my focus right now. And then swiftly moving to reaching out to all the voters, all 750,000 people who live in the 5th District, and most of them are independent voters. And they, frankly, haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to what's been going on this summer. So,
well, you know, in terms of getting everybody behind you, I know Dan Roberti, one of your opponents, immediately on election night, said he would support you all the way in needing a Democrat in that seat. And on the other hand, I have not heard that Chris Donovan has extended the same to you.
Well, I'll tell you, we're moving forward, reaching out to all the towns, to various
Have you not
groups.
even heard from him?
As I understand it, he's on vacation, which I certainly understand, a well-deserved vacation. This has been a long process. And I'm fully confident that we'll be moving forward together as a party.
So, but what do you think you have to do? Because labor support obviously will be critical for you. What do you do to reach out to them, to appeal to them who have stood so steadfastly behind Donovan until now?
Well, I've kept those lines of communication and spoken with them throughout this entire process, and those conversations started up immediately, yesterday morning. So, very strong commitment to making sure we keep the seat blue.
How do you describe your philosophy? Are you moderate? Where are you on fiscally and socially?
Well, I think the labels are not tremendously helpful to people. I think what is helpful is knowing our values and knowing how we approach problems. And in my case, I think right now, ideology, frankly, is getting in the way of solving the problems that we face as a country. And I think we see that with the record number of people not choosing either party, especially young people. Historically, young people would jump right in to sign up and be most often a Democrat. Well, frankly, right now, young people are choosing neither party. And I take that as a real sign in the fact that, again, 45% of the voters in this district are choosing neither party. And I take that and I hear that from people, even, Democrats and Republicans, saying, we need to get to work in Washington, get people back to the table, and solve problems.
Well, your opponent says taxes and spending are you a tax and spend liberal? I mean, where are you?
I'm a balanced approach. Let's get the numbers right, and let's have the budgets reflect our priorities and values. And I'll tell you, when you serve in local government in Connecticut, you have to make those kinds of decisions because you are forced to make a choice, make a series of choices, and you face your neighbors the next morning. You sit next to them in church, you see them at the grocery store, and on the soccer field.
They'll let you know.
And they will let you know. Believe me, they will let you know.
Can you name some specific programs or agencies that you would see that would need to be cut to cut the deficit?
I don't think there's whole agencies or programs, but what we do need to do is be quite demanding about how our programs performing on meeting the challenges we face. And face it, you have a lot of programs that build up over a long period of time, all of them well-intentioned. But if you have 6 child poverty programs, it's really important to know which ones are working best. And I think now is the perfect time and the necessary time to take a look at the biggest challenges we face and ensure that our funding is going to get the most bang for the buck.
Where are you on what the president has been saying about the Bush-era tax cuts?
Well, I think we need to let those tax cuts on millionaires expire, absolutely.
Experts have also said that you can't really reduce the deficit without cutting the outlays from Medicare and Social Security. How would you reform those to more adequately keep costs in check?
Well, I think there's a false premise in part with that statement because we got to this hole we're in, frankly, by having waged 2 wars, for 10 years and not paying for the wars. We've never done that in history, ever. And at the same time, we were dropping taxes. So that just can't work. The math doesn't work. You can't drop your taxes and increase your spending to run these two very expensive wars that are also very costly in terms of human life. I mean, my niece, who texted me yesterday, is getting set to go off to Kabul in 4 weeks. She's finishing basic training right now in Mississippi, and she's out of the National Guard in New Jersey. And we still have young men and women from Connecticut and all over this country who are fighting to defend freedom around the world. And that's part of our cost, too. It's human cost. It's not just dollars and cents.
Well, you talk about the military and defense, and defense spending, of course, has been very important to Connecticut. And I'm reading about what Pratt & Whitney President David Hess has said, issuing his dire warning to his suppliers at a conference here this week about the possibility of a new recession if these $500 billion in defense cuts go through. What are you going to do about that?
Well, I think, again, this illustrates, Al, the difficulty when we get the gridlock in Washington, which we're back to the kind of standoff we had last summer. And now this time it's going to be sequestration, these sort of mutually assured threats against each other to nuke the other side's favorite program. It's not fixing the problems. We need to step back, take a deep breath and say, what are our priorities as a country and how do we meet them? What does it mean to be safe in the world? And safe in the world includes energy stability, clean, affordable, renewable energy for the world. That is part of national security. So we need to think more broadly about what these terms are.
Well, what sorts of experience do you have that would facilitate that kind of pause that you're looking for in perspective?
I think I have that experience because I've lived that experience. You know, I have the skill set as a lawyer back before I had children where I did that sort of detailed work, reading carefully, and frankly, that helps when you're looking at statutes. The fine print matters. Sometimes, you know, $1 billion there, $1 billion here and there, it adds up to real money. So I know how to look carefully at legislation. I did that as a state representative as well. But the skill set to get compromise and to get things done, we do a pretty good job of that here in the state. And again, on the local government level, there isn't a letter after your name. You're just trying to get things done for your community.
But don't lots of people in Congress have that same kind of experience? And they're caught up in the gridlock that you talked about?
Well, I think some of it is tone, though, too. And some of it comes out of our very independent district. You know, again, there are not a lot of districts that have the record number of independent voters that we have. And they want people who are going to be an independent voice. They look for that, and they demand that of their representatives. So that empowers the representative from this district to be a voice of sanity, of get back to the table. We're Americans first. And that's what I think the opportunity is here.
So if you're talking about tone, do you think that Andrew Rohrabach is a Tea Party candidate?
Yeah. Again, I think we're going to see substantial differences between the parties, between what that translates into in Washington. You know, I know Andrew. I like Andrew.
Does he look and sound like a Tea Party guy to you?
He's in the next segment. I think we'll need to ask him that.
Well, but I mean, to you, does he look like a Tea Party?
You know, again,
I
have been paying attention to what's going on the Democratic side right now and getting my message out to voters about what I stand for. And that's my focus of the approach that I'm taking, the values I bring. And again, I would say, if you take Medicare and Social Security, which you flagged, Lori, Social Security is a problem because Medicare, you know, because the Congress raided it. That's the problem, was raiding of the funds. And on Medicare, we need to really be looking at, in this country, how we promote health better. And that means a big step back to say, not paying for every test and prescription that might allow the bottom line to look good for a medical institution, but say what's going to promote health in our country.
Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth Esty, for being here this morning, your first appearance as the new nominee.
Exactly. Thank you.
Nice to have you with us on The Real Story.
Thanks a lot, Elizabeth.
Great to be here. Thank you.